Hello, today I'm talking about my weaknesses, something that I said before that I would have not purchased, and then I was weak and I bought it. I hope that you will subscribe. It helps my channel to grow and to encourage me to record other videos. And thank you so much. I would like to buy only the best products. I'm not at that level though, because we are humans. We like to buy something that make us happy, and makeup is a passion for me. So makeup really makes me happy. So sometimes I really want a treat for myself, and although sometimes I'm aware that I may have something better in my collection, or I already have those colors, I want them. Let's start with the Pat McGrath holiday collection that has just arrived. Arrived yesterday. And I purchased 3 items, the 2 blush palettes, and this I already told you in my videos about that I would have picked them up. Then I purchased the the one palette that I said that I would have not. And I also purchased the Dior palette that I liked so much. And for sure, I always buy some Suqqu, because Suqqu is my favorite makeup brand. So Pat McGrath, Pat McGrath is tied with Suqqu, is one of my favorite brands. I decided to purchase this blush palette, although I was aware there were a lot of repeats there. This was covered a lot on YouTube and is full of replicas. So why did I pick this palette? Well, this is a beautiful color arrangement. I like this combo a lot, also in dresses. I like this antique rose. I find this color palette to be very sophisticated. And this, in my opinion, can be also used as eyeshadow palette. Is a quad in the, a pillow talk vibe. I think it's a nice purchase for me. Why? First of all, I don't like the regular blush packaging. I only purchased 1 blush in the regular packaging, and I hated it because I'm not able to open it quickly. This is much more convenient because I have a variety of blushes. So for people that do not have already these colors, is a great value in my opinion. And I like the packaging a lot because it's easy to open. The opening is totally magnetic. I like the formula. This Pat McGrath formula is not my favorite, but is one of the longer lasting on my skin. And this is the reason why I purchased this palette, these 2 palettes, these blushes, I mean. Because I've noticed that they last on me and they have a great value, because the other brand that is so longer lasting is a Sisley. And Sisley blushes are so expensive. 1 blush costs much more than the entire palette. So this is a great value because you have 4 different colors in a convenient packaging. There are smaller sizes. I never finish 1 blush, so they are perfect for me. Easy to travel, sturdy. This is perfection in my opinion. The only con is that if you already have these colors, you don't need to buy these. But if you don't have this formula, if you want to try Pat McGrath, these are great. So because they are great value, I purchased both of them. And this is the second palette. I had in the past Divine Rose. Is translating on the viewfinder much cooler than I see in real life. However, I don't like this blush, honestly. This is the only one that I don't like. This is a new shade. This one is a new shade, and also the highlighter is new. So this year there are 1, 2, and 3 new shades, and these 2 are repeats. Electric Bloom was something that I considered purchasing, and then I didn't purchase anymore. I didn't like the standard packaging, but again, this is convenient. I would like to make these magnetic so that I can mix and match when I travel. The way I'm gonna use these are actually use these Pat McGrath shades as base, and then put a Suku blush on top, like topper, like finishing powder, because that finish of the Suku blushes is my favorite. So I can, get on the surface the beautiful Suqqu formula, and on the base, take advantage of the longevity of these blushes. Then the palette. So, Suqqu palette. I purchased this one. I also have a short when I compare this to a Lunasol palette. I still need to record a video about Lunasol. That is another brand from the same umbrella, let's say, Suqqu. So is a parent brand to Suqqu. And this was from the fall collection. And it arrived at Cult Beauty so late, 2 months late. Yeah, I put it here because I also purchased one palette from the latest holiday collection that I mentioned in one video of new releases. So I purchased that palette too. And I also purchased, when it was back in stock, the glow powder, the lavender powder. That was, again, a face powder, loose powder from Suqqu from the holiday release. Then another palette that I said that I would have not purchased because, I already had these colors in a better version, but yeah, I couldn't help. I admit I purchased this palette only for the bronze shade. This is my bronze period of my life, let's say, and I'm buying whatever is bronze. And just to conclude, I also purchased this one by Dior that, I said, okay, I have it already, but I also purchased because of this color. That is, a taupish bronze. And I haven't swatched yet because I wanted to do it with you, but I swatched it live in Sephora last week when I was on my way to Zurich for a trip. And I was more in the mood to purchase the palette because when you are, on holiday, you are kind of more indulgent with yourself. And I like the texture of this so much. It's a standard texture. It's not big dégelé. I usually buy Dior and Chanel only when I find the big dégelé formula, but this was so smooth and the color sexy. I find these colors sexy, so I decided to purchase, and I admit I will use only this half of the palette, but maybe this can be helpful as a liner. It's convenient to have it here. I don't think I will ever touch this shade here. I also purchased the Tiger palette from Space NK. I wanted that palette. I'm seeing that is going out of stock before Black Friday. Here in Europe, it's less easy to buy Hourglass. I signed up for restock updates, and as soon as I had the update, I had it from Space NK. I purchased the palette. Space NK is very bad with the stocking updates. The palette has not arrived. They sent me the free gifts. I'm so angry because of that, because they sent me the free gifts, but not my purchase, the palette. And they said because it's out of stock, they will send me that in the future. Cult Beauty is much more reliable. So, okay, I will cover the blushes in the future, maybe, I don't know, because, they are everywhere now, so these were purchases. I mean, I never purchased something to show you on YouTube, so the purchases are only for me. I would like to focus on this palette because I recorded a video about that where I used the Decadence palette to dupe it, but more recently, I also uploaded a short when I realized that this color story was quite close to a previous release by Pat McGrath. Before Pat McGrath released her brand, it was the last release before she had her brand. See how much the quantity has decreased over time. So let's put it here, 1, 2, and the pigment were from the Dark Star 006 release. There were different editions, and this was the first with also a special pigment that could be brown, like this, or purple blue, and I will make a side-by-side comparison. These were amazing pigment because they were baked It's a formula that resembles of those the trio of highlighters, and she has not released anything like this anymore. Or maybe the other big things were the Bridgerton 2, the blush and highlighter shades. I really love this finish. It's very smoothing, so I wish she released more items with this formula. This is my all-time favorite black shade. I already told you about that. This has a golden reflect. It's so unique. Is called Dark Matter, again in the baked formula. And this was the brown pigment. This is my second one. I finished an entire pan of pigment. So I purchased 2 of these kits because I wanted the pigments. Unfortunately, the only way to purchase the pigment was to rebuy all the kit. And then these 2 are from, even before, are from 2016. And this was the 005 release, limited edition release that was dedicated to metals. So I purchased the silver one and the bronze one. So these are the cream version. And I think that these creams are quite close, especially this one is quite close to the actual new shade. You see, because this is a warm tone silver. It has some warmth in that it has a golden hue, even if it is a silver. It's a warm silver. And yeah, to me was a good candidate to be something very close to this silver here. From the pan, it seems that this is even warmer than this. But let's see. And then I had the bronze, but this is clearly different from the original bronze shade here. These were my best dupes, and for me it was enough to say I don't need this palette, because these, especially these ones, were so close to this. So if you wanted to buy, as the majority of people, this palette because of this shade, and you are a fan of Pat McGrath, you know Pat McGrath since the beginning, you are a supporter of Pat McGrath since the beginning, like I was, then you may have this shade that can be quite close. We will do swatches and side-by-side comparisons. But the reason why I purchased this palette was because of this shade, that actually I'm seeing that is quite different, is more sparkly. It has some golden sparkles compared to this. The first impression that I'm getting from this palette is that it's really small. I mean, this is less expensive than other palettes, but you really get little quantity here. So I like live swatches, so let's try to do that, although it's not really the best. So I wanted to compare these 2 shades. They are quite different, right? Because this is much more interesting, it's cooler in tone, and this is a standard champagne. So this is the new palette and this is the old one. Then I get this charcoal gray that I will compare to my favorite dark matter. So dark matter is, black that you can sheer out. This is actually a gray. Honestly, yeah, I would have chosen something different, like a cool tone brown instead of this one. This makes this palette, I don't know. I don't like it at all. I like the texture, but the color is too blue toned. It's too cool toned for my preference. It's a very great, like a cream to powder texture. Well, this one is my favorite. Is more, sheer, you see? But once it's sheared out, you see they're closer in, once applied rather than, on my fingers. And then let's compare this one, that is a silver cream formula, with, yeah, the new one. The new one is chunkier, while the old one is smoother, but are closer than expected. Let me swatch this again. Well, this is very nice actually, because you see how it deepens up once it is not caught by light. So it has a taupe shade that is very interesting. I like it a lot. Well, this is a straight metallic that is cooler in tone. Yeah, I like this tone. This one is, yeah, it's a revelation, let's say. But I have to say, it may be the amped up version of this one. Let me build up the pigment here. Yeah, it has that greenish tinge that this also has. You see, they're closer than I expected. But this has also a brown undertone that this one does not have. So the shimmer, the reflects are similar, but this has a transparent base, while this one has a brown base. So it can be self-blending in the sense that if you shear this out, it can become a one and done because it has a darker base. Yeah, but they're actually, these two are closer than these two. So this one, let's swatch this bronze. It's definitely warmer in real life rather than what I'm seeing. It's more the gloomy day that makes it more olivey than it is in real life. In real life, I see it's more copper and therefore less unique than I expected, because I was really looking for a greenish shimmer, but what I see in real life is copper. And this one is great. I get compliments with this on. Yeah, it's better. I added a better version already. You see how it goes. This is greener. You see how much green is in this shade compared to this one. This is an amazing shade because it's a bronze. Okay, here is more the real colors though. I need to put this to be closer, to have a closer color rendering on the camera instead of my hand. So you can see that this is more subdued and as a greenish tinge, is cooler in tone compared to this one that is more copper. So in real life, I expected this palette to be more cooler, to be cooler in tone, to have that greenish quality that I don't see it in real life. The surprise was actually this one. So I will keep this palette. I won't declutter it, but I'm actually disappointed by this color because I thought it was greenier. This is still one of my favorite. I get compliments when I wear this color. It pairs beautifully. When this set was launched, this was a base, and on top of that there was that astral white pigment that she also released later on in the Subliminal palette, and the combination is amazing. So this is still my favorite pigment in my entire collection. You can see why, because it's the right tinge for me. And then you have this copper shade. Yeah. And I want to compare this. I need to swatch this. So this is the new one. And this is the old one. They are even closer now. This has a finesse in terms of the size of the sparkle that is finer and more refined. These are the eyeshadows that they can make a YouTuber scream, but not me for sure, because it's more mainstream, high quality, whatever. But yeah, I like this kind of finer texture. So these are more my style compared to these that may be more trendy. And the bronzes now, the old one and the new one. My gosh, guys, I am satisfied by this comparison because this is much more copper than I anticipated. They are close, guys. They are close. So they look different on the pen, but once swatched, they are quite close. This is reddish and this is more orange. This has more red, this has more orange. But all in all, I would say that if you have this older set, you may want to skip the new one, the new palette. On the other hand, this set is very expensive because this one was 140 euros and these singularly were, I don't know, 40 or 50 euros because they were again in kits. So the combination of this was much more expensive than this one. I like both, to be honest, but I like the old ones maybe the best. And so I could have skipped, now that I realized that I could have skipped this palette. But you know, weaknesses. I like the tone variety of this anyway. I won't use this color, it's not my style, but these ones are great, especially these two. I will keep the palette for these two shades. And even this has a nice effect, glossy, wet effect. Now I have removed the bottom two shades because they do not relate with the next palette I would like to discuss. This is one. So my takeaway from all of these comparison is that sometimes you don't need to buy the palette to have an idea of the color story. So what I had said in my previous video where I practically anti-old this palette was right. I mean, I had already something very similar in my collection and something that I even prefer. So I have something better for me already in my collection. So again, this proves that the new is not the best. But since we are human, I can sometimes accept to make some exceptions and buy something that makes me feel happy. Nothing is really new these days. This should be the new palette by Pat McGrath. They said to be is a new formula, okay, but I even prefer the old formula. So, you know, it depends on your preferences. Once you have some experience with products, you can already estimate. You don't have to buy everything and then realize that maybe you regret it. You can say already that that is not for you and decide by yourself. This is another thing that when I watch this, I will try. Yeah, it's the first time I touch this palette and it's sad that this embossing is going to go, but so this color here, I wanted to put it maybe here so I can compare it with other things, including this one. So this is actually what I find the sexiest shade for me because you see how smooth is the formula. This is my preference because it's close to the old Pat McGrath, you know, to the Pat McGrath baked shades or old creams or, yeah. It's very similar to this one. This is shinier though, but this is so sexy because it's a nude. It has some warmth, but not too much. So it will emphasize my brown eyes with grace. And this is satin, I can say, but you see how it really becomes one with the skin. And I was fond of this, and this made me purchase this palette. And I did a video looking for this color actually, So I will make the same comparisons I did in that video. So to do this one, I consider the Tom Ford metallic denim. I will swatch them side by side, and I also use a Isamaya shade layered. So this is a base, and then tone it down by this one. Let me do it. As I correctly suspected when I was duping this shade, this is less golden than this one. You can see that this is more sparkling because it is the gel to powder formula, Bake the Gelée formula. But I really love how elegant is the finish of this shade. And this is the standard Dior formula that is embossed for the holidays. So I will actually try to show you them in the pan side by side again. So this is more toned down of a color, so less golden than this. And the shade comparison is Dior here, Tom Ford here. And then to match this color, I use this shade by Isamaya. That is too much goldish. Yeah. And then I layer this on top, and I show you also this on the eyes. And guys, I'm a great color detector because they are identical. You see? So again, I was right. Again, also that video, I was right in that video. I did not need to buy this palette for this shade because I already had it in my collection in an even better formula, because I love this finish by Tom Ford that on top of the Isamaya is spot on, guys, is spot on. So we made it. So all in all, I spent my money. I purchased these two palettes by McGrath and Dior, and I realized that I was right in my anti-haul, let's say, in my anti-haul and color analysis videos, where I said that I did not need this palette, and it's true. I was true. And I could have skipped these palettes because I like the old Pat McGrath formula more. And I could reproduce almost exactly this shade with what I had in my collection. And see you in next video. Bye bye.